What's going on, Vikings fans? Welcome to the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. Coming up on today's show, we got a big-time Christian Darrisaw update and how his status is looking for Week 1 Monday Night Football against the Chicago Bears. And also Silas Bolden, UDFA punt returner, kick returner from Texas. It's looking like he could potentially be a lock to make the Vikings' final 53-man roster. So we'll break down both these stories on today's show. But first off, let me ask you guys this. Who is your favorite player in the NFL not on the Minnesota Vikings? Because I'm assuming a lot of us would say a player on the Vikes. But besides anyone on the Minnesota Vikings, who is your favorite player? If I had to pick one, big Josh Allen guy, Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua is one of my favorites as well. Trying to think of like a completely random guy here. This is super random. Jeremy Chin. I've always been a fan of him after he had back-to-back defensive touchdowns against the Vikings. I think it was in the 2022 season. So you guys get creative with me. Who's your favorite player in the NFL not on the Vikes? All right, so the big fella, number 71, Christian Darrisaw. How is his status looking for Week 1? We obviously know he's coming off that torn ACL and MCL. He was at OTAs and minicamp doing individual drills off to the side. But apparently his status for Week 1 is in question. That's what Alec Lewis said. Saying, will he be back in time for Week 1? That's probably a rosy expectation at this point. Still, Darrisaw has attacked his rehab. The Vikings have commended his progress. So I got to see the Vikings kind of proceeding with some caution here with Christian Darrisaw because, Week 1 against the Bears is obviously a massive game. And this Vikings offensive line, like when Darrisaw is there, I think they could be a top 5 unit in the league. They have continuity. Especially on the interiors, Ryan Kelly and Will Fries. You got 2 great bookend tackles, and you spent that first-round pick on Donovan Jackson. But let's just say Darrisaw can't go, or even a guy like Willie Fries can't go. The offensive line still looks solid. This was the unit they were running at OTAs with Justin School, swing tackle, who they picked up from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Actually played very good this past season for Tampa when he had to fill in for Tristan Wirfs. So I think that's a high-end backup swing tackle in the league. Then you still got Blake Brandel there. He could slide in to be the right guard, even if Will Fries has to miss time. But you still got Kelly, Donovan Jackson, Brian O'Neill, and even this kind of backup version of the Vikes offensive line is still a pretty solid unit. And that's why I would be more than okay if the Vikings slow play Christian Darrisaw returning because this guy is one of the best left tackles in the National Football League. He is going to be a cornerstone of this franchise for years to come. And I think if you're looking at the core of the Vikings will build around, like thinking really big picture here, it's Darrisaw, Jefferson, J.J. McCarthy, and Kevin O'Connell on the offensive side of the ball. Franchise left tackle, franchise wide receiver, hopefully franchise quarterback, and you obviously got KOC, one of the best play callers in NFL. But, Darrisaw's locked up for a long time here. Honestly, this contract, looking back on it, it's going to be a steal because a lot of these top offensive tackles in the league will start to get, potentially $30, $32 million. But the fact the Vikings got Darrisaw on these numbers, I mean, this year only, $9.68 million. I think that's a steal. And, like I said, Darrisaw is one of the better left tackles in the league. And, it was so unfortunate this past season. I really felt like he was coming into his own, potentially getting an all-pro year together this past season. You see his PFF grades. I mean, that 2022 season, his sophomore campaign, that was special. And that was also when a guy like Trent Williams took Darrisaw under his arm a little bit in the offseason, was saying he's a mini version of himself. We know how, aggressive and tenacious Darrisaw is on the offensive line. I couldn't be more pleased with that draft pick. I remember when the Vikings traded back in that draft in 2020, I was a little disappointed that they, I think it was Elijah Vera Tucker I wanted the Vikings to take, but then they traded back and got Christian Darrisaw. Obviously ended up working out. But, hey, if you guys want to show Christian Darrisaw some love, he's almost back. Probably not going to play Week 1, but again, anything can happen. Like, we'll probably get a more real update during training camp and during the preseason. But as it stands right now, probably won't be there for Week 1. And also, Week 1 against the Chicago Bears, probably not going to have Jordan Addison, probably not going to have Christian Darrisaw. If you could somehow get a win on the road against your division rival without those 2 guys, that could be massive to start the season. So show him some love down below in the comment section. Type those 71s down below. All right, let's talk about the kick returner, punt returner, Silas Bolden, UDFA from Texas. Could he be making the final Vikings 53-man roster? We've heard a lot of reports suggesting that he could. So we'll break down Silas here in a second. But before we do so, we got a sweet deal going on for you guys right now. If you guys want to get some more Vikings merch in your life, hit that link, chatsports.com/Vikings combo. You guys can get 2 Vikings t-shirts for $29.99 right now. Normally these are $49.99, but because of the deal we have, make sure you click that link. You guys get them for $20 off. So chatsports.com/Vikings combo. All right, so Alec Lewis in his article also talking about Christian Darrisaw was pretty much discussing 45 players on the Vikings roster, just giving a little note here and there for all of these guys. And I thought what he had to say about Silas Bolden was interesting because saying this, the Vikings aggressively targeted him after the draft. So clearly the Vikes had some interest there. And he said he has the potential to be the team's most dynamic returner in years, which is very, very true. Like Silas Bolden, even just him as a pure wide receiver may not, ever crack the field or ever get some real reps at that spot. But as a returner, he right now is the best on the Vikings roster. And I remember in that college football quarterfinal against Arizona State, it's a 7-3 game. Arizona State's punting it away, and Silas Bolden ended up taking it to the house. And, the Vikings over the last couple of years, it's almost felt like they've neglected the kick and punt return game. And especially this past season, it kind of looks like they just didn't really care about it. Like in 2024, here are their kick returners: Ty Chandler, Cam Akers, Myles Gaskin. Like, no disrespect to any of these guys, but these are just true running backs that they were putting back there. I remember I was making the argument, might as well just throw Addison back there. Just throw in, you run the risk of injury, which is why the Vikings didn't, but there was really no juice. Chandler, Akers, Myles Gaskin, Silas Bolden would be better than all of those guys immediately. And also, even a guy like Rondell Moore back there, throw Tai Felton. They experimented with Jalen Naylor a little bit. I remember in the punt return game, but then that was when the Vikings were up 21-0 in Green Bay. Naylor muffs a punt. Green Bay comes down, scores 7 right away, and almost completely changed that game. But they have Brandon Powell back there. Powell's an all right returner, but does he have the juice that a guy like Silas Bolden has? Absolutely not. So hopefully the Vikings, even if Silas doesn't make the roster, hopefully you got at least guys with more juice, like a Rondell Moore, Tai Felton back there, just better than what we had this past season, because they did not take the return game seriously last year whatsoever. And that's why I was so shocked when the Vikings put out their 53-man roster last August, and they didn't have Kene Nwangwu making the team. I was stunned because I was like, that's our only returner we have. And I remember when they made that move, everybody was saying, well, are they going to go get another kick returner? Are they going to go get another punt returner? They just ran with what they had, ended up not really working out. They're one of the worst kick returning and punt returning teams in the NFL last year. But in terms of Silas making the roster, the 3 you see on screen right now are all locks, including Tai Felton. So you already have 4. Normally teams keep around 5, 6, or 7. I think the Vikings might lean to keep 7 guys here. Rondell Moore, obviously coming off that torn ACL, I think the Vikings will just elect to keep him on the team. Tim Jones, special teams guy, I think he'll make it. But then Silas Bolden will be that other guy where, maybe the Vikings only keep 9 offensive linemen and then 7 wide receivers. Maybe they cut a guy like a Ty Chandler from the running back room. They only keep 3 guys there. However it ends up working out, I could see the Vikes keeping 7 guys. But I'll ask you, what say you on this one? Will Silas Bolden make the roster? Give me a Y for yes. Give me an N for no. You guys let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. And we'll see you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.